All right, today we're going to journey to a land of light and magic to explore a fairy tale that really gets you thinking about a fundamental question. What's the true measure of wealth? It's a story all about pride, priceless gifts, and, well, the surprising cost of happiness. So let's dive right in. And this question is really at the very heart of our tale. Think of it like a challenge, laid down by a princess who is absolutely convinced she has everything. But, as you're about to see, the answer has nothing to do with gold and everything to do with the heart. Okay, so our story kicks off with Princess Isabella. Picture this, a huge kingdom, just filled with wonder, and she was considered its most precious treasure. I mean, as the king's only child, her every single whim was treated like absolute law. Whatever she wanted, it was fulfilled in an instant. So, her room? It had every rare and priceless thing you can possibly imagine. Servants were just constantly buzzing around her. You've got one holding silk clothes, another one combing her hair with a literal golden comb. So naturally, she grew up absolutely believing her beauty was unmatched, that her will could never, ever be broken. And this kind of life, it built up this just immense, unshakable pride. And this right here, this contrast really sets the stage for the whole story, even before we've properly met our second character. So on one side, you've got Isabella, right? She's all about pride, wealth, gold, diamonds. And on the other, we have Adrian. Now that's a name we're going to get to know very well. He represents something totally different. Simplicity, music, just the simple value of a flower and a flute. So you know what happens next. The time finally comes for the princess to get married. And that massive pride of hers, it leads her to make this super bold declaration. She would only agree to the world's most expensive wedding. Period. And to make sure of it, she laid down a list of what seemed like totally impossible conditions. And wow, her demands were just as extravagant as her pride. Get this. First, she wants a palace with walls made of solid gold and glittering diamonds. Okay, second, she wants all the jewels in the entire world laid at her feet. Then, for number 3, a gift that's totally unique, something that would never die. And finally, and this is the real kicker, the most difficult one of all, on her wedding day, someone has to make her smile. A real, genuine smile, straight from the heart. And what's crazy is, unbelievably, her father, the king, he actually pulls it off. Or at least, he tries. He commissions this palace that glitters with diamonds like stars in the night. He sends people all over the globe to gather up every precious gem, filling entire halls with them. Princes show up with magical swords and birds made of solid gold as their undying gifts. But Isabella? She rejected every single one. Nope, nothing was good enough. And then, just when it seemed like no one could please her, after all the princes and kings had tried and totally failed, someone completely different shows up at the palace gates. He's not a royal, not a nobleman, just an ordinary boy named Adrian. So, Adrian shows up in these old, muddy clothes, which you can imagine was a total shock in this super fancy court. And his undying gift, it wasn't some enchanted artifact. It was a small, simple flower that glowed with its own inner light. And when he presented it, they say the flower filled Isabella's room with this gentle fragrance and a soft, warm light. But Isabella's pride? It was just absolute. She takes one look at this simple little flower, then at the boy who brought it, and her reaction is just instant and cruel. She doesn't even see him as a suitor. To her, he's just some beggar who wandered in by mistake. And she orders him to be thrown out of the palace, right then, right there, humiliated in front of the entire court. So, at this point, the first 3 conditions are technically met, but she's rejected everything. So only one is left, that 4th and by far most difficult condition. And the way it gets fulfilled? Well, it starts in the most unexpected way possible. Okay, so weeks go by. Jesters, magicians, musicians, they all try to make Isabella smile, and they all fail. She's just completely disappointed with everything and everyone. Then, one day, she's walking alone in the palace gardens, and she hears it. A soft, beautiful sound drifting from the deep forest. It was a sound so sweet and soulful, it literally stopped her in her tracks. So she's drawn by this curiosity she's never really felt before, and she follows the music. And who does she find? There, under a tree, sits Adrian, yep, the very same boy she had thrown out, just playing a simple flute and humming this gentle song. And his music, it was so full of sweetness and truth that she just found herself listening, completely captivated. So this becomes her daily secret. Every day she'd slip away to the gardens just to listen to his music from a distance. And then it happens. One afternoon, Adrian is playing this particularly beautiful melody, and without her even realizing it, a real, genuine, heartfelt smile spreads across Isabella's face for the very first time. That's it. The final, impossible condition had just been met. And in that one moment, her pride just shattered. She realized true happiness wasn't in palaces or jewels. It was in that sound. You know, a realization like that, it changes everything. Her heart was completely transformed, and now she had to do something about it. And this is where the story enters its final, really powerful phase. So, when her father calls her in to finally choose a husband, remember, all conditions have now been met, Isabella's answer just shocks the entire court. In this quiet but firm voice, she says she doesn't want any of it. Not the palace of gold, not the mountains of jewels. She wants to marry only one person, Adrian. But there's a problem. When the king's messengers go to find him, Adrian is gone. Just gone. So Isabella gets frantic. She flees the palace one night all by herself, running into the silent forest. She follows the memory of his music until she finally finds him by a waterfall. And she just falls at his feet, tears streaming down her face, and confesses everything. She just says, "I don't want anything, I just want you." Fast forward to the wedding day. The court is buzzing, right? Everyone is super confused about why the princess is marrying a commoner. But then, the groom's procession arrives, and everyone just gasps. Because Adrian is riding at the front, not in rags, but in the full, magnificent splendor of a prince, with golden carriages and royal guards and the whole shebang. It turns out it was all a test. Adrian reveals that he's actually a prince from a neighboring kingdom. He disguised himself because he wanted to find out if Princess Isabella's heart could ever value something more than just material wealth. It was a test of her character, and by giving up everything for him, she had passed. Completely. And this, of course, brings us all the way back to our original question. As Adrian stood there in front of everyone, he declared that this was in fact the world's most expensive wedding. And you want to know why? Because its price wasn't measured in gold or diamonds, but in something far, far more valuable: true love. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? What are the real tests of value in our own lives?